Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog and to yet another Study With Me video. Today we're going to be studying out in the sun in the beautiful garden of our university accommodation. So as usual, we'll be doing time lapses of us doing work, and I'll be hopefully explaining stuff as we go along, maybe giving you some tips on how you can revise for your own exams, and hopefully just to add a bit of variety to our lives, we're going to inject some like cinematic sequences of us making lunch and all that standard stuff. So yeah, hope you enjoyed today's Study With Me video. See you later.
Lights are out and you stumble in the dark. You kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault.
So we kicked the day off by doing some role plays of how to explain DNA CPR to a patient. DNA CPR means do not attempt resuscitation, and after discussion with the patient and their family, we signed this order, which means that if the patient's heart stops and if they die, we don't attempt CPR to bring them back from the dead. This is an important conversation to be able to have, and it could have come up in our exams, so we ran that scenario a few times with each other. From around 11 o'clock, we worked on assessing a patient's fitness for discharge. Now this is where note-taking comes in. As I alluded to in the previous Study With Me video, I don't really mind making notes if there isn't an easily accessible summary already available, and in this case there wasn't really. So these are the sorts of notes that I made, and I think that there are some good general tips from these. Firstly, I think numbers are really important. Splitting up a topic into numbered lists is so much more useful than bullet points. For explaining it to someone, and even when we're thinking about it ourselves, we can think, right, the four main things in this topic are da 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 da. With bullet points, which is often the default that a lot of us go for, and that certainly was the case for me back in the day, you don't really get the satisfaction of being able to say that there are 4 points you need to know, or there are 5 points you need to know for this. There was another thing we did here. So we split up the activities of daily living that we had to talk about into 8 different parts, but it's normally quite hard to remember like a list of 8 without any other aid memoirs. So what we did was we weaved a story about how to remember these things, and we thought about it as if an elderly patient is going about their day. So the first thing they do is they wake up, then they walk to the toilet, and then when they're in the toilet, they like have a shower and change their clothes, and then they try and walk downstairs, and then they cook their food. All of this kind of stuff, that sort of a very simple story that lets us remember this 8-point checklist. True that this topic does lend itself very well to a story like this, but to be honest, you can try and apply this sort of story to a lot of things where you've got to learn a long list of stuff. So I remember back when we were doing GCSE geography, we used to have the story of Percy the Pebble and Billy the Boulder, and like how they'd be kind of like rolling down this river and introducing the concepts, the various different types of erosion as we went along. So having done a couple of role plays explaining DNA CPR to one another, and then having created the system for how to assess a patient's fitness for discharge, we decided to have lunch. And just to break things up, here is some slow-mo of us making and eating lunch. While we were having lunch, Jake and Paul came up to the kitchen and we taught them how to do this fitness for discharge assessment that we worked on in the morning. So I was the one that came up with a little story thing, so instead Catherine was the one who explained it to Jake, because then I could kind of oversee them and see if there were any holes in her knowledge, and that was helping all 3 of us learn. And what Catherine did, which was really good, is that while she was explaining it to Jake, she made him generate a lot of the things himself. So instead of saying that, okay, well, we've got this 8-point list, and first thing the patient wakes up, secondly they go to the toilet, thirdly they have breakfast. Instead of doing that, she made him do like kind of work it out from first principles. So she said, right, Jake, what's the very first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning? Jake said, oh, I have breakfast. And then she said, no, the very first thing you do. And then Jake said, okay, I get out of bed. And she was like, perfect, that's point number 1. What's the second thing you do when you get up? And he was like, well, I walk to the toilet. And then she was like, perfect, so walking and to going to the toilet are points 2 and 3 on our checklist. So you get what I mean? Like when kind of explaining stuff to someone else, it's better to get them to generate the answers by themselves if they can, and you kind of prod them along rather than just kind of spoon feeding them. And good general point as well, once you've learned something, then try your very best to teach it to someone else. It helps you because it helps you consolidate your knowledge, and it helps the other person because, you know, you're teaching them something, and you know, this is collaborative rather than competitive, and all of that stuff. After lunch, we decided to run through some history-taking role plays, and then decided to do some palliative care stuff, because firstly, it's quite important for real life, and secondly, we thought it might come up in the exam. So there were 4 of us in the room, and we brainstormed 4 different areas of palliative care that we should probably know about. And for about 15 minutes, each of us picked one of the topics, and we made our own kind of note summary for it. And then at the end of the 15 minutes, we all explained our topics to each other, so that we essentially we crowdsourced all the knowledge we needed in about a quarter of the time, because we'd split up the workload, and that was a really useful way of getting a lot of content into our brains very quickly. So my topic was what happens in the final moments of life. What does it look like when someone's dying? I found some pretty good guidance on a hospice website, and I turned that into a summary on Notability, my iPad app for taking notes, of like an 8-point checklist of what it looks like when someone is dying. I wrote these down in different colors, firstly because it helps kind of separate it visually on the page, and secondly because I like writing in different colors, and it just, you know, makes the process of revising and making notes much more pleasant, so why not do it? And this is where the numbered list thing comes in, so that it was far easier for the others to remember an 8-point list of things to know when someone is dying than it was like if I'd just done it by bullet points and not given them like a clear idea of how many they had to know. So after that, the others went upstairs to practice some more role plays, and I decided to stay in my room and watch some recommended videos of our director of studies showing us how to do a psychiatry risk assessment from someone who's attempted suicide. This was a really good video, and as I was watching, I took some more notes on my iPad of words and phrases that Dr. Wilkinson was using, and of the structure that he was using while he was kind of doing this risk assessment. Taking notes while watching a video or while watching a lecture is really important because A, it helps keep me awake, otherwise I very easily fall asleep in lectures. Secondly, because it acts as like a summary of things that I can look at a later date rather than having to watch the whole video. And it also kind of forces me to categorize and systemize things into my own little system, into my own structure, and that acts as another cue for recall that I can call upon at a later date. While I don't really endorse note-taking as a revision strategy in itself, I think it's really useful to do while kind of attending a lecture or watching a video. But by this point, it's about 6:30 p.m. We've been working since around 10 a.m. and it's been pretty chill. We've had a good time with friends, but we've also got quite a lot done. We post a message on our house Facebook chat that we're doing some board games tonight, and then people come to my room and we end the day with a solid game of Articulate. So yeah, that brings us to the end of another Study With Me video. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Have a lovely day, good luck with your revision, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. It's an orange fruit. You get it in Pakistan and India. Nice, really tasty, sweet.
Passion fruit.
Rubicon.
Guava.
No, keep going.
Strawberry. No,
oh, it's also branded like a clothing brand. Opposite of a male is a.
Is it sex?
No, like just like. Oh, I can't believe this. Indian fruit, really sweet, like oh.
Papaya.
I give up.
Mango.
Oh my god.
That's a dough bagel.
Someone's arrow, he makes you fall in love.
Cupid.
It's not the North Japan Ocean, it's the...
Southern Japan.
South China Sea.
Thank you. Mugabe, Robert Mugabe, what country?
Uganda.
No.
Oh,
Zimbabwe.
stop.